Hello, and welcome back to Bookish. Today I wanted to do the second in my series of movie reviews of film adaptations of A Christmas Carol, and today I'm going to do the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol. George C. Scott plays Scrooge in this adaptation, which is pretty good. Scott plays plays Scrooge in this adaptation, which, you know, I think the most interesting thing about it is it kind of takes the scenes in a different order. In this version, I actually was tempted to include the Cratchits because I think some of the best acting in this version is actually done by the actors and actresses who play the Cratchits, but I'm sticking to my formula. I'm just looking and evaluating each version or each adaptation of A Christmas Carol based on 6 scenes. So for each of the 6 scenes, the movie version or this movie adaptation can score 5 points for each of the 6 scenes. So the maximum score would in fact be a score of 30. So I'm going to do that with the George C. Scott version here in just a minute. Let me remind you what those 6 scenes are. So scene number 1 is the scene where I think we see Scrooge at his cruelest, the one where he's confronted by the 2 men collecting for charity, and the one in which he more or less suggests that if poor people don't like being poor, maybe the solution is just for them to die. Scene 2 involves Marley's Ghost, which is absolutely one of my favorite scenes in all the movie adaptation versions. I have the hardest time probably rating that one. Scene 3 involves the Ghost of Christmas Past, which I frequently find the Ghost of Christmas Past to be the most disappointing ghost in the movies. Scene 4 involves the Ghost of Christmas Present, which at times can be my favorite ghost. Scene 5, I think, I was pretty hard on the Scrooge version of the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come and talking about how lame it was, but it was lame. And maybe, pulling off a truly scary Ghost of the Future is the hardest, but that's Scene 5. And then Scene 6 is Happy Scrooge, Scrooge redeemed, Scrooge woken up and determined to make something different of his life. So, like I did in the last one, I'm going to go through and show clips from those 6 scenes, and I'm going to tell you what I think about each one of those scenes and give them a grade of 1 to 5. As a heads up, the sound quality in these clips is not as good as I had hoped. Okay, so here we go. Scene 1 is Scrooge confronted by the men collecting for charity.
Mr. Scrooge, I presume. Indeed you do, sir.
You don't know us.
Nor do I wish to.
My name is Poole, and this is Mr. Hackett.
Excellent. Now, if you'll allow me to pass.
Let me explain something. At this festive season of the year, it seems desirable that those of us with means should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute who suffer greatly at this time.
Provision? Are you seeking money from me then?
Many thousands are in want of common necessaries. Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts.
Are there prisons?
Plenty of prisons.
The workhouses, they're still in operation?
They are. I wish I could say they were not.
The treadmill, the poorhouses, still in full vigor?
All very busy, sir.
I was afraid from what you said that something had stopped them in full force.
A few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and food and warmth.
Oh, what can we put you down for, sir?
Nothing.
You wish to be anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. Since you asked me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. My taxes help to support the public institutions which I have mentioned, and they cost enough. Those who are badly off must go there.
Many can't go there, and many would rather die.
If they would rather die, perhaps they had better do so, and decrease the surplus population.
Surely you don't mean that, sir.
With all my heart. Now, if you will go about your business, gentlemen, and allow me to go about mine.
Okay, I actually think this is George C. Scott's best scene as Scrooge. I kind of like the smug, arrogant, almost physically intimidating Scrooge, and maybe it's something to do with George C. Scott. I have a hard time seeing George C. Scott as Scrooge in general. He's just a little too big, a little bit too tough sounding. Even in later scenes, and if you watch this whole version of the movie, I have a hard time buying George C. Scott as afraid. Even in the scenes you will see here in a minute with Marley's Ghost, where he is, I guess, afraid, George C. Scott just doesn't do scared well. So, for evaluating this version of Scrooge based on this scene. I gave a score of 4. I think this is as good as George C. Scott gets as Scrooge, and I've kind of like his take on Scrooge dealing with the men collecting for charity. So the next scene is the scene with Marley's Ghost. As I said many times, this is always one of my favorite scenes in all the adaptations of A Christmas Carol.
What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
You're particular for a ghost. Who are you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Can you sit down?
I can.
Well, do it then.
You don't believe in me.
I don't.
What evidence would you have of my reality beyond that of your own senses?
I don't know.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Because a little thing affects them, a slight disorder of the stomach. It might be a bit of bad beef, a blot of mustard, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more of gravy than of grave about you, whatever you are. Humbug, I tell you, humbug! Mercy. Dreadful apparition. Why do you trouble me?
Man of the worldly mind, do you believe in me or not?
I do, I must. But why do spirits walk the earth? Why do you come to me?
Okay, I don't know who the actor, and I didn't bother to look it up, I'm sorry. I don't know who the actor who plays Marley's Ghost in this version of A Christmas Carol is, but I really think he nails it. I think this is a really scary Marley's Ghost. If you kind of discount the scene where he takes off the headband, which is keeping his mouth closed, and lets his mouth fall open for a minute, which I don't think works. If you discount that, him screaming and being angry at Scrooge, it's pretty scary, and it would take somebody like George C. Scott, I think, not to be afraid of this version of Marley's Ghost. So for this scene, I give this adaptation of A Christmas Carol a score of 5 out of 5. The next scene is The Ghost of Christmas Past.
Just a dream. Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
Perhaps you would do me the favor of placing upon your head that cap which you hold in your hand.
I bring the light of truth. Would you use this cap to put it out?
I beg your pardon, I had no intention of offending. What business brings you here?
It is for your welfare.
So in this scene, Scrooge meets the Ghost of Christmas Past, who is dressed like an ancient Greek woman with a really interestingly bad hairdo. At least I think in this one they do kind of stick more to the leitmotif, and you do have Scrooge actually asking her to cover her light with the cap that she carries with us, which is more like the original than the Ghost of Christmas Past in the musical version of Scrooge. But I don't think this works as the Ghost of Christmas Past, and again, I found this really disappointing. So I gave this version, or I gave the Ghost of Christmas Past scene in this adaptation of A Christmas Carol a score of 1. The next scene is the Ghost of Christmas Present. This is the scene with my favorite ghost in the Christmas Carol story.
Ebenezer Scrooge! Ebenezer Scrooge! Come in!
intend to.
Come in and know me better, man. You've never seen the likes of me before, eh?
It's quite true, I have not.
You never walked forth with any of the younger members of my family?
No, not that I remember.
Nor any of my elder brothers born these later years?
I'm afraid not, no. Do you have many brothers, Spirit?
Over 1,800!
Tremendous family to provide for.
Okay, I give this scene and this Ghost of Christmas Present a score of 3. It just seems kind of average. I'm not overly impressed with the Ghost of Christmas Present. And this scene in which Scrooge meets him is just far too short. And again, George C. Scott just doesn't seem to be enough in awe of the Ghost of Christmas Present. He seems confused, but I don't know that he's awestruck. And I need my Scrooge to be a little awestruck by the Ghost of Christmas Present. The next scene involves the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come.
What is this? I thought we had agreed that you would transport me home. Inspector. No, before I draw near to that stone, answer me this. Are the things you have shown me the shadows of the things that will be? Are they the shadows of the things that may be only? Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends. I accept it. But if those courses be departed from, the ends must change. Tell me that is so by what you show me.
You don't get to see the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come a whole lot in this scene, and I think that actually kind of works to the advantage, and I think it's pretty scary. I'm not sure the scene works, and I hate to keep harping on the same thing, but I just don't buy that George C. Scott is actually afraid, and I need my Scrooge to be cowering and afraid, not just regretful, not just, feeling like he got a raw deal. And really what I get from George C. Scott is just a sense of injustice, not real fear. I need a kind of a grovelly, really scared straight kind of Scrooge here. And as scary as I think the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come in this scene is, Scott doesn't seem to be that scared. But I gave this scene an overall score of a 4 because I think this is a pretty scary Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. The last scene is the scene where Scrooge wakes up on Christmas morning and he has a conversation with a young boy in the street, and he is full of joy and happiness and almost so bursting with the determination to lead a better life that he can't contain himself. So here's that scene.
Hello, you there, boy.
Me, sir?
Yes, you, my good fellow. What day is today?
Today? Why, it's Christmas Day, of course.
Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. The spirits did it all in one night. Well, they can do anything they like. Of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow.
Hello!
Do you know the poulterers in the next street but one, on the corner?
I should hope I did.
Intelligent boy, remarkable boy. Do you know if they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging there?
What, the one as big as me?
Delightful boy. Pleasure talking to you. Yes, the one as big as you.
It's hanging there now.
Well, go and buy it. Yes, go and buy it and bring them round so that I may tell them where to deliver it. Come back with the man, I'll give you a shilling. Come back in less than 5 minutes, I'll give you half a crown.
I'm just not buying it. George C. Scott, even when he's happy, seems a little terrifying and hostile. And to be honest with you, if I was that little kid going by and George C. Scott had yelled at me from a window, I just would have kept running. I realize I would have lost a half a crown in the process, but I'm not stopping for George C. Scott. He's just still a little too scary. And I just didn't buy joy. I'm not sure that joy and happiness is something George C. Scott plays very well. So my overall score for the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol is a 19. And I realize now, and going back and thinking about everything I said, that what I'm really saying in most of my comments to the clips in this movie is that I just don't buy George C. Scott as Scrooge. In addition to that, I'll just say I like my Scrooge to actually be an Englishman. There are a lot of English actors out there in the world, and I don't see why we have to have an American Ebenezer Scrooge. I gave the George C. Scott version of Christmas Carol a total score of a 19. There it is. For whatever that's worth, I'd be happy to hear your comments and to get into a discussion with you about whether I'm right about George C. Scott or not. Please let me know how you feel about my review and this version of A Christmas Carol in the comments section. And thank you for watching.